Welcome, everyone, to the Minions of the Zoo Tuesday edition. I'm Skep Tock. I'll be your keeper this evening. With me, I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
Geodes.
Hello.
Jenna.
Hi.
The Harry Channel.
Good evening.
And the fun couple du jour. I'm so pleased to have them. First of all, the delightful Uzi Q.
Hey.
And her much less better half, Irate Prostate.
Hi, y'all.
It is so wonderful to have all my friends here on the channel this evening. I've been excited about the stream all day, and this on a day when, I didn't sleep 1 minute last night.
Ugh.
I have been up 2 straight days, and what happens is it's like amphetamines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm actually vibrating at this point. I'm just high on amphetamines, the natural amphetamines of absolutely zero sleep, and so it promises to be a fun stream.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to send it around the horn here and find out how everybody's days. We'll start with my wing woman, Prospero. How's your day been?
My day was just fine, thank you. And other than exhausted and now too tired to sleep, how is yours?
Oh, it's been good. Interesting day. Just some just grandkid stuff. It was my grandson's birthday today, and so we had to go over and celebrate that. And just running around and all that stuff, and all the things, chores to be done today. And being absolutely going from exhausted to that place beyond exhaustion, and then being over there and celebrating with everybody and loading up with cake. That was really smart.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've just been making one good decision after another. Thanks for asking. But anyway, Geodes, how's your day, man?
It's been good. I've got my car put in the shop to fix something that has been flashing on my dashboard for 5 months, and
if it's flashing, doesn't that mean it's working?
I mean,
was it the oil light?
Oh, Jesus.
It was a wrench light. I don't know what to tell you, but
what does temp mean?
Right? Yeah. I'm just like, I can pay somebody to fix this, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I also kind of got my communications situation fixed, so I can now be contacted by people. So that was nice.
Yay.
I also am prepping
Joining the center.
So
Good, excellent.
Yeah.
All right, what's going on, man?
Just it's been a really mellow day. It's like for the first time in a while. It's like it's just been a great day. Just chill the fuck out. I'm excuse my language, but I mean just to kind of
We'll take a cold shower.
No. Yeah. Well, besides, that's right. Breaking news.
Besides not having a functioning water heater, it's
Day 21, no hot water.
The things we take for granted.
Man.
People may say, well, it's a first world problem. Yeah, try it sometime, my friend.
Yeah, no
You know how that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. And on the flip side of that, Uzi, how you doing?
I'm better now. I needed to interact with other humans besides the ones in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Are any of those people here with us now?
No. I banished them. They're gone.
The voices get worse at night for me, but your mileage may vary. I certainly understand it. Jenna, how you doing, hon?
I'm doing good. I found Oscar pajama bottoms at TJ Maxx today, and anybody who knows anything about me knows Oscar is a relatively important thing in my life. I know that sounds weird. And I was so happy I might have did a little dance of joy when I found him.
There you go.
And I might have bought all of them, and everyone in my family now has Oscar pajamas.
But
Hey.
it's
Oscar
just
Mayer?
Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
Oscar the Grouch
Oh, Oscar the Grouch.
for quiche.
Yeah, they got wiener jammies on.
Well, you can have Wienermobiles on them because everybody loves a Wienermobile.
In honor of my daughter,
She loved Oscar beyond earthly love.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
so
like
good. All right. So
Yeah.
it's an Oscar day for you. Very good.
the Grouch, not the Meyer.
I understand. Not the man overboard dummy. Okay, Harry, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I just been a day of technical frustrations as always. Sometimes you work on a problem and every single thing you try fails for one reason or another.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
it's not even anything I've done wrong. It's just try something out. It's like, oh, well, we didn't document it, but that feature doesn't work. Oh, do tell.
Great.
Thank you for the informative error message.
It's still in
Yeah.
it's still in the marketing profile. Yeah, about that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of convert a virtual disk image from one type of virtual machine to another, but it seems like they've added extra value over at VMware in such a way that other tools just go, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Interoperability, what's that? So
Yeah.
you know, it hasn't been the most fulfilling day of working in the world of tech.
going back to the WordStar model of we're going to be totally proprietary. And that's why MicroPro is such a factor in the software industry today.
Well, they have like one customer, so
Yeah, he's
isn't
on
it George R. Martin?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
and he's still on AOL, so it's all good.
Oh, very good.
Those bastards.
Harry, I wanted to thank you for sharing what you did. I actually shared part of your post, the good part, the good big middle paragraph that you wrote
Oh, okay.
with the panel prior to going on the air, and I thought I would kind of run back through that, particularly in view of what Ben Shapiro had said, and I had watched this also when I read what you posted. I had already seen what Ben Shapiro had said, and I thought, man, this is clearly the theme for tonight. And Shapiro was saying the unwillingness of Western citizens to live with any level of risk, economic, health, or personal, spells the end of the civilization. Innovation requires risk-taking. Building for the future requires risk-taking. Complete risk aversion leads to decadence and collapse. And then I go back to your comments about the real crisis of the Western world may be an epidemic of neuroticism or a crisis of fortitude. Call it what you will. Western civilization is broken because the people are sick. Death is hidden. Risk is minimized well beyond what a risk-reward analysis would deem is optimal. And that's a great insight, that last sentence. The decline of religion, the helicopter parents, the nanny state, etc., all played their role. I think that blaming the communists is simplistic, but they fanned the flames. The current people who pulled the strings of the people moving the president's mouth did their part too. The COVID pandemic was like pouring gasoline on a fire. And then you also said, I don't hate women, that's excellent qualifier to get out there, but they suffer from levels of neuroticism, higher levels of neuroticism than men do typically. So it's no surprise the teachers and now nurses are coming unglued. People who fight it get various labels, bros, toxic masculinity, and so forth, much, much worse. And then I think you're referencing what I was talking about China conquering us economically. And you said, I'd like to think that we could fix this without a collapse, shocking us out of our weakness or us just getting conquered by some group still in touch with their humanity. You know, I would like to think that too. And but I think it's worth discussing and understanding what's going on and why. I think you are pointing the way to some very fine insights. Then Prospero picked up on uh, the thing with women and had some really worthwhile remarks. Also, I wanted to call a little bit of this out. You, Prospero, you said placing women in roles outside of the evolutionary biological traditional ones has to have something to do with the increasing neuroticism, too, to say nothing of the attention according people with, quote, mental health issues, end quote. You know, the whole you can have it all notion. Were men ever told that in the same manner, since they can't bear children, or, you know, is that the all different? I don't really think it is. A wonder that the Valley of the Dolls has morphed into the ditch of the psychotic. It's no wonder that the increasing neuroticism is impacting men as well, with the constant demand from those women to be in touch with their feelings. You know, there's a lot of that's put a lot of pressure on men who choose to pay attention to that sort of thing. And you said peculiar, but I never thought that men were out of touch with their feelings, just that they required a higher level of scrutiny of a friend before they shared those feelings all over the place, which is absolutely accurate. Also, vomiting one's feelings all over the place was frowned upon in public, leading to all that concern over repression and so forth. And were people more psychologically messed up, or have the combination of good times, sanitizing reality, and pop psychology surely didn't help? And I think the social pressures going against prior eons of normal behavior have contributed mightily to people being farther up their asses than they were when we were kids, basically. And I thought, in light of those remarks, it kind of sets up an interesting thing to talk about. Why are we becoming the way that we become? Why has the left just lost its fucking mind, adopted all the quote disenfranchised groups as kind of pets to be passed on as affirmative action hires, and, you know, being failed up in school and so forth? All the things that are contributing to the crumbling of our intellectual infrastructure, and really the soul of what used to be a great country. And then the second part of that is, what do we do to turn those trends around, or can we? Or do we just have to wait to be conquered by China, as I so happily predicted last week? Floor is open. What do you guys
Well, I have
think?
one quick thing for, because I've spoken enough, you've spoken enough for me, saying things I said, but I just want to point out that the difference between what Shapiro was saying and what I said is that he's talking about effect and I'm talking about cause. Now, there may be a cause of the cause, and that's the interesting thing, but I think it's good that we're actually ahead of Ben Shapiro. Of course, he was working within the Twitter tweet limit and going mass audience, and I was sending a note to my clever friends, so I wasn't really holding back. Whereas Ben's probably trying to be a crowd pleaser. I did see one thing, one quick thing I saw today. I commented on a comment on a comedy bit. It was like 3-4 minutes of Sam Morril doing a comedy, and there was a woman in the audience who seemed kind of depressed, and she was heckling. And so he basically just kind of called her on her bullshit, was very friendly, and they seemed to be getting along okay. And this guy in the in the chat got very offended, you know, that he was picking on this person with a mental handicap. And I said, no, it's not like he told a paraplegic to walk it off. You know, he was simply not enabling somebody, you know, paying attention to this person, but not enabling them. But the fact that, and it was fairly obvious, a bunch of people chimed in, yeah, I was actually at that show, and it was pretty obvious she wanted to date him. Date meaning a nice term for what I think was going on. But the fact that there's just people out there waiting to white knight their way in, there's got to be some kind of feedback that you get from this state of hyper weakened neuroticism that substitutes for all the things, the good things that people used to get out of life.
It's like the most perverse form of chivalry
Yes.
because it's simping chivalry.
But Harry's question, I think, is really on point. Why is it happening? What lack? What is missing?
And what
from
do they
these
get out of
people's
it?
lives? Yes,
Yeah.
and what do they? Are they living in a fantasy kind of
Yes.
where they'll really love me? You know, boy, those feminists would really love me if I tweeted this amazingly woke thing. You know,
Yep. Mhm.
and that's enough for them.
There are boys that will constantly, throughout the rest of their lives, seek their mother's approval.
Yeah, that's a good
and
point.
and there is feminization
Thank you, Freud, indeed.
of our culture. Yeah, I think Freud's to blame for a lot of this shit too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the feminizing of our culture through. All right, it's very complicated, but education has become almost entirely female. If you go into a high school now and you look around, you don't see anywhere near the number of male teachers that you used to see.
Oh, and the male teachers are female.
Yeah, and the male teachers are pretty much.
Oh my God.
They're beta boys, and it's not good.
No.
And they were not, oh my God, they weren't when I was younger. They were the enforcers in the hallway. The guys that if something, you heard some ruckus happen in the hallway, you would suddenly hear, bam! And it was a teacher or a male administrator addressing the situation by usually lifting someone off their feet against a locker.
And slamming them against the locker.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a time-honored tradition.
Yeah, and it was the attention getter. Excuse me, are you paying attention now?
Now that your feet aren't touching the ground.
Yeah, which is that loss of ability to flee
Yeah.
is a hell of an attention riveter. But there's been a lot made of so much of feminism seems to think that males are defective females. And
That's actually seriously proposed
yes, and
in
it's
supposedly serious academic.
I know that you know the genitalia is all the same, and then it flips, and you know. Oh, stop it! You don't understand what you're talking about. You don't even understand gestational biology, so just shut up and go away. But I think it is it used to be a tragedy in slow motion. I think it has accelerated because we now have 40-year-olds who were feminized throughout their education. Their behaviors were adjusted to fall in line much more with women. When you hear a woman say, I'm empowered, what I imagine now is a woman standing on men. Because so many of these women are requiring males to provide the power source for them. You've got to get out of my way. There needs to be more women on boards. So you go and you approach a predominantly male legislature and you get them to go white knight for you. And then suddenly there'll be more women in boardrooms on boards, you know, where you'll have an entire state decide that you have to have some kind of gender equity on all corporate boards. And that's not empowering. That's enabling. And it's enabling bad behavior. Demanding males submit to a matriarchal system.
So in the larger sense, how does that? What do we do to push back against trends like that are pushing us away from the boy and into the soy, as it were.
I would address some of it in education. I mean, if you don't like your school system having too many women, I think you should have initiatives to hire male teachers. And
I have a much
watch.
simpler solution.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry, I thought you were still talking.
No, I'm not. Absolutely, please.
Gosh, what was it I heard? A common thing that you hear from very, very smart people with money is that they don't want their kids to grow up rich. And the reason they don't want them to grow up rich, in a nutshell, is that it's very, very bad to grow up without knowing any kind of scarcity. It tends to create character problems, but more than that, it causes problems with fortitude. You don't develop the ability to deal with any kind of adversity if you're never actually challenged with it. It just becomes an abstract concept. I think that we would be ahead to take that kind of attitude and run with it in a lot of different ways. We should stop childproofing the world.
Oh, please, yes.
We should
Absolutely,
teach people that
yes.
it's okay to try and fail, but failure is a thing that can happen. Absolutely no more participation trophies.
Oh, yeah, or social promotion.
Yeah, all of that should just stop immediately. It doesn't matter what gender the teachers are if we don't fix these kinds of things. And the other thing is you need to stop hiding death from people. The best thing we could do, honestly, is take a lot of these people and say, you're going to go to the nursing home and you're going to visit this person and you're going to make their day better.
Yep.
You need to get to know, you need to understand that death is part of life.
Yeah.
Because until there's some perspective, people will continue to make terrible, terrible choices. What is the point of having a car that is incredibly safe but costs you the equivalent of 7 years of your productive labor? What is the point of having a house that's incredibly safe that nobody can afford to buy?
Yeah.
Everything is out of kilter because we've decided that that our whole barometer for loss of all different kinds is completely broken. In the good old days, back when Skep was a kid, you'd have 12 kids and half of them would probably, die by the time they're 8.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't...
And that was fine.
Right. And I don't mean to hit close to home for anybody listening, because I know people have lost children and it was absolutely terrible for them. But by medieval standards, none of us, fortunately, have to deal with the level of suffering that they did, but they still got up in the morning and they did stuff. They didn't just, curl into a ball and stop functioning because they had 4 other kids to take care of, and they were on the way to making some more.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not trying to recreate the Dark Ages, but I think that we have not done ourselves a service by putting quite so much childproofing around the world. And even changed, like I said, with the thing with death, we've changed the perception of it.
I have just one question to add to that stack, Harry. Should we do away with affirmative action?
It depends. I think it depends on the context. I think that affirmative action is absolutely silly when you talk about things like CEOs. What percentage of people are CEOs? Even out of, like, say, white cis males, what percentage of those people are CEOs?
Many zeros to the right of the decimal.
It's this tiny little group of people that live up in the stratosphere of autists who apply themselves and work these insane hours, who are willing to sacrifice everything to be at the pinnacle of that level of performance.
And very, very high risk acceptors. Very high risk acceptors.
When you're dealing with such a small group that self-selects, what does the composition of the society at large have to do with any of it?
Yeah, it's denying that it is higher, that we're hierarchical. There are going to always be high risk acceptors and incredibly ambitious and driven people, unless you beat it out of them, which we're in the process of doing.
Yeah. But sorry.
No. But what I mean is that you can't. The world itself is not a meritocracy in that regard. Your merit is going to be like my merit by comparison to a CEO's. They shouldn't even be measured on the same scale.
It's like
Well, yeah.
complaining that most chess grandmasters are men.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people are
Yeah,
not chess grandmasters. It's a very elite,
It's
self-selected
ultimately
group.
ridiculous.
Most
If
physics
gotten to the
Nobels are
point-
Ashkenazi Jews.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jenna. I think I stepped on
We-
you. I didn't mean to.
Jenna?
We've gotten to the point where it's almost like people have run out of things to complain about. So now they're just looking for stupid things like CAOs or chess or whatever. I also want to say something about the children who are our future. The parents that, when they're learning to walk, don't let them fall on, but catch them before they fall. That doesn't, even that lesson at 12 months old is important, that when you fall on your bum, you get back up. And parents, I've known a lot of parents who refuse, but he might get hurt or he might get a scratch. But that's how they learn. And I'm not saying go out there and like let your kid run wild in the street. But as a mom, I think it's important that, you know, when they learn to crawl, they do fall on their face a couple times.
Yeah, bloody nose is not the end of the world.
And people don't seem, but if it happens to a kid or someone sees it happen to a child, they're like, oh my, should we take them to the emergency room?
Is
And
there a
it's-
bone sticking out yet?
Yeah, it's just so. Kids have to learn to fall. It's the only way they'll learn to pick themselves back up.
Yeah.
I don't want a beta child.
So what I'm hearing from Jenna is that as a parent, she feels like we've gone overboard in what in a good-hearted attempt to reduce risk, reduce the bad things that happen. We have put our children in bubble suits, essentially, insulating them from the realities of life, and so they grow up with these very unrealistic perceptions, assumptions about the way the world works. They think the world is going to be their oyster forever and ever because mommy was such an excellent helicopter mommy that, and provided everything that they could ever want. And now you have non-binary, as this gentleman or this creature describes itself at Oberlin College, complaining that the person coming in to install the radiator in his dorm or in its dorm room is
Zeers.
is cis white male, and he was not warned by the school. He had to sit there while the cis white male made him very unsafe, feel unsafe, very uncomfortable, and then he was traumatized afterward and had a spell, several hours of PTSD that he had to deal with on top of that, simply because Oberlin was not cognizant of his feelings and his needs.
Well,
This really
Skep.
happened.
you
This
can-
is not a Poe. I thought
No,
this was a
I
Poe when read
thought it
This is
was
for
too.
real. This
I
is
thought it
for
was a made up, because I read a lot of like campus reform and college fix and things like that. And, but, it's not, but But the man came in to fix your radiator. He didn't come in there to like molest you or anything like that,
Yeah.
or
But
harass you.
he might have
Both
thought
his
cis
parents.
thoughts.
Both his parents are. I totally cyberstalked this little asshole,
Good.
and both his parents are extremely left wing Boston liberal lawyers, and mom is also a philosophy lecturer at
Oh my
Harvard.
God.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
And you
They
can
live
just
near me.
imagine
That is the cesspit right
they
there.
have
Philosophy
more money.
department.
They have more money than God, and this kid has just grown up in the lap of luxury, and mommy's little oyster is now away from home for the first time in the cuddly embrace of something even sicker than mom, and that is Oberlin College.
Well,
And he was traumatized by somebody who actually knows how to do something.
Yeah, somebody who Mike Rowe could go out and have a beer with.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great
a
point,
manly
Prospero.
man.
Someone who,
What
someone who
did
is
you say, Harry?
genuinely.
That's a great. I'm giving Prospero credit because it didn't even occur to me when I was listening to that. That's exactly right.
It's
I
a
was so
productive human
focused.
being.
I was so
intimidated him.
focused on the cis male part of it that it didn't even occur to me that there might be a whole different axis of jealousness or something that him looking into this person as a mirror was revealing his own inadequacy.
Mhm.
Right.
The guy knows how to fix radiators, and using and using your math, Harry. There are HVAC people aren't falling from the sky. We know this because there is a terrible shortage of skilled labor in this country. And one of the reasons is risk aversion, because skilled laborers can hit themselves with a hammer or get a little burny ouchie on their finger from something hot, and scarifying. But there are only so many people who end up working as plumbers who would handle radiators.
Of course, a plumber after a 2-year apprentice is knocking down $60,000 a year.
Absolutely. Behind doctors and lawyers, plumbers used to be the best paid. I think IT has probably moved up and kicked them down to fourth, but gated communities used to be full of doctors, lawyers, and plumbers.
My mom's dad was a plumber for the city back in the day. So he was a short guy, but he was tough. I mean,
Tough,
he was tough as nails. I mean, Irate knows.
My granddaddy was an outdoor laborer, and there wasn't anything he couldn't fix. That's what you did.
He said he started smoking at the age of 10.
7.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was not uncommon. But
Can I just?
So that's 10 in base 7.
But males who accomplish things, blue collar guys,
My math too.
are really upsetting to these tiny little peckered soy children who can't carry around 5 pieces of paper without fear of a paper cut.
Paper.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
Oh,
you mentioned Mike Rowe, and he's one of my secret crushes because he's
Oh, he's a hero.
he is.
it's just competency used to be expected from people. I mean, actual physical competency used to be expected from people. You should know when you left home, you needed to know how to operate the stove and the cooktop, whichever fuel system it was. For women, we were taught many domestic crafts, sewing and blah, 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 but which were all very useful. And a number of women made money even back in the dark ages, tailoring and dressmaking and that kind of thing. I felt like I needed to know how to change a tire, and I needed to know how to hammer a nail, and to do some basic things, because you didn't just call Mr. Fix-It to come hang your blinds. You moved into that first apartment and you had to figure out how to put up some kind of wall hanging. You hung the goddamn thing. You didn't go, oh my God, I need help. And I'm not talking about people, the halt and the lame and the blind and the deaf. And I'm not talking about those people who are physically incapable of doing something. I'm talking about just your average. I hate to use this term, but the norm is the norm for a reason. Normal individual could do things. Look at the number of people now who seem utterly befuddled by anything that involves manual labor.
Can I step in?
Please.
So, first of all, I'm not addressing cis boy, but not cis boy, afraid of cat boy, because it's not worth my. It's just he's not worth it.
Okay. Noted.
I'm sick of it. I don't think it's wrong that I think my man should know how to deal with if we have a leak in a water issue, or fixing the sink, or dealing with men's jobs at home. And I know, oh, how dare you, but I let me tell you, I'm not a fool with a wrench or a screwdriver. I know what I'm doing, but I like that my man can do it. And I would have so much just in my personal life if James didn't know how to fix everyday things. Then I'm going to have an affair with the plumber.
Very.
If I have to hire a plumber, I get to sleep with him.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I'm kidding on the sleeping thing, but you guys know what I mean, right? I don't want to sound like a complete bitch, but
We know it's not just sleeping. Yes, we understand that.
Well, back in the day, my dad's dad, and he was also part of that generation. He owned, it was a tin shop, TIN, and he could do almost everything with his hands. I mean, he was very smart. He didn't go to college. He just learned how to do things by reading and just figuring them out. But he never taught my dad or his brother much of that skill, because my grandfather was a perfectionist and he could do it better than they could.
Mm-hmm.
So my father, who was also a very smart man, he was not mechanically inclined, and I didn't make anyone think less of him. It's just he was never taught.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. And
oh no, I'm not. You're
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. That's just an example, because we always marveled, how much my grandfather could do and how much his sons didn't know how to do.
But that's your grandfather's fault for not teaching.
He wasn't inclined toward teaching either. A lot of people.
He was impatient. He was impatient, and he could rather do it himself than teach people how to do it.
Shop class was a common thing when I was in school.
Right.
I
mean, I don't blame him for not doing that. That's just, some things you just, accept them for what they were. It's like, and
yeah, you can't change people. If someone's going to be like, You're not doing it right. Get out of my way. I'm doing it. Go away. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
And
And I think some of the move away from it is manual work is very tough work. And I know that
Yes,
there were
it
some
is.
parents that did not want their kids to have the hard life that they did. And it was with all good intent that they did that. I don't think my grandfather gave one shit what kind of a hard life my dad had. No, I really don't, because he was kind of emotionally impenetrable. I know his mama wanted him to have a perfect life, but he was her sole remaining child, speaking of loss, because she had a little girl who died in infancy from disease and had a stillborn child. And, they struggled their entire lives. Now, my dad, what gave him the impetus primarily to go to college and to law school was working in the summer for the company that my grandfather worked for, and having to climb ladders underneath people who would spit chewing tobacco on him, and that kind of thing, because he was the dog's body, hanger oner, and that the manual labor. My dad was like, it's hard, it sucks, and it stinks, and it's miserable, and the people in it are assholes. I am going to aspire to something greater. And my father had the brain power to do so. Otherwise, he would have found his niche in some form of skilled labor. They were city people. I mean, what it was worth. But his daddy had grown up on a farm. But some people did deliberately push their kids away from blue collar work because they wanted them to have a college degree, because that was something fancy people had. And everybody has a little class envy.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
them. And they wanted, and the thing is that the world changed dramatically at the end of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely dramatically. The quality and standard of life in this country shot through the roof. And
for everybody, including poor people.
And certain things became attainable that had never been attainable before.
Mm-hmm.
And completing high school for some people.
Do you remember the statistic in the 1970s that the average family living below the poverty line had a television set and a car?
Mm-hmm.
That was when I knew that capitalism was definitely doing something right. And it's an interesting thing. In this country, if you start out, say, as a college graduate, lowly ensign in something like the U.S. Navy or the U.S. Medical Service, and you work hard, apply yourself years after years of unstinting toil, you might make it up through lieutenant and then lieutenant commander, captain, commodore, rear admiral upper half, and then vice admiral, and then eventually 4-star admiral, or these days, if you're a transsexual, you can just start your U.S. Medical Service career as a 4-star admiral.
Yeah.
Did you see Admiral Rachel Levine?
Yeah.
In her uniform, that actually made me faintly nauseous. That was absolutely disgusting.
Admiral who?
Admiral Rachel Levine used to be a guy, pediatrician, assistant secretary of health, and was made a 4-star admiral in the United States Medical Service.
Former bunkmate of military school with Mark Milley.
Doesn't that just make perfect sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
The
new
now they can shine each other's brass.
No shit.
Late
Well-
at night when they can't sleep, they could just tell stories about the dreams that they have for their futures.
Yeah.
Millie, do
My
you
God.
remember when you abandoned all those people and left them to be killed brutally with American weapons, even though they were Americans?
Yes.
That was so
That's
brave.
Mark. That's Mark Millie.
So brave.
Yeah.
Oh, well, do you remember when
Rachel
you got your-
Levine is the one, Jenna, who left who got her mother out of the nursing home. She was at the University of, at Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's health department, head of the health department or something like that, got her mother out of a nursing home before they started moving COVID patients in with the regular nursing home residents.
I wasn't finished. I was doing
sorry.
each one.
I didn't know if you remembered.
I make fun equally.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that picture.
Stunning.
Stunning and brave.
Oh my, so stunning, so brave. Bravo, bravo.
Yeah,
4-star admiral.
Fight me.
Okay.
Yeah.
On
Is
the
that-
YouTube page, all right, that I put a link to it up there in the private chat. Read what the tag says beneath it, which is what I loved.
Well, read it to us.
All right, well, let me. I'll click to it and come on. Thank you,
Openly
sir.
transgender Rachel Levine to be sworn in.
And
She
the-
should openly transgender. How? I'm sorry.
How
I know.
else?
How else
can
are
be?
you be? Yeah. I mean, Christina Jorgensen was not
Yeah.
closeted transgender.
No. Read that, Irate, as soon as you have it.
All right, it says from a national health authority. Learn how experts define health source in the Journal of National Academy of Medicine.
Find out how that works.
And you can,
So-
yes, we will watch the swearing in Friday night. I'm just saying.
So this person was sworn in. Is this honorary or
No, this is real. This person.
did they
Is-
serve in the military?
Well, she is now
man.
the head of the U.S.
Oh.
She has military rank. This is
Oh,
if
okay.
I were if I were my lowly lieutenant self, which would have two of those little braids going around my and no thick gold braid, I would have to salute her. I would have to do anything she told me to do as long as it was a lawful order, and I would have to treat her with respect according to the dictates of the and constraints of military regulations, Navy regulations, and the UCMJ. I would have to comport myself as an officer, and that I would be under her command, as would anybody of inferior rank.
Mhm.
So an admiral who's worked his ass off, a vice admiral in the Navy who's worked his ass off his whole life, he's just given himself to the Navy. Those really are the guys who mostly make it to admiral by and large.
Right. Career guys.
Would have to salute and ask her what she wanted and get her coffee and whatever she commanded because of her
Civilian
you know,
appointment.
the United States Health Service has always been rank heavy. It's obscene. I've gone into their headquarters in Washington D.C. I think it's at Fort Meade, if memory serves. And there are, you basically come in as an MD, as a commander. So that's three gold bar. You never know life as anything less than a commander, and everybody is a commander, a captain, or a commodore, which is one thick gold braid, and they just walk around playing at being military. Actually, what they are is a bunch of doctors, many of them pretty substandard doctors, frankly, and they're not out making $1 zillion in civilian. Many failed MDs in there, just walking around enjoying the status, playing at life.
What
And this is the ultimate of that. I'm just horrified by this.
What I was-
Absolutely sickened.
asking was they didn't earn it.
No,
Okay.
she didn't.
I didn't. I
earn
meant
it.
yeah.
This is like an honorary degree, except more sickening.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Well,
It's
it-
just
It's all
It's
because
like being given a real PhD and never having done any work in it.
yeah, this all comes out of the fact that the public health service had its origin as a system of marine hospitals.
Well, I saw where there were, several of the surgeon generals of the United States were women, and none of them got this.
No, you don't
Honor.
have to be. You don't have to be in the U.S. Health Service to be Surgeon General. At least that used to be the.
Well, it was like, why
Even though
was
you're
this
ahead
person
of
so
it.
special? Why?
It's
what-
because of the origin of that actual department within the
Okay.
government. It's
Well,
because
that's why they do that. Yeah,
it's
that's why
it's
they wear the
because it
uniform.
came from a series of marine hospitals. But like the use of surgeon general is like attorney general. It's not.
It has
it's-
nothing to do
it
with
has
military
nothing.
rank.
just
No,
the
I
fact-
know,
yeah.
I know, but
The
it's
civilian
like,
post.
Yeah, but this, unfortunately, because of its origin and the fact that people love taking jobs like this where they get to pose and preen in cute little costumes. Yeah, with all the pageantry, and then unfortunately, the honors accorded the rank.
Actually, the Surgeon General is a commissioned officer. They do put
They
them
do
in, but they give them the rank of vice admiral.
Right. They
Which
don't
is
put them at the
one
top
below.
of the heap. Yeah.
That's one small braid below what Weasel Girl has. Weasel Girl is the assistant secretary of health, and so she will actually outrank the Surgeon General of the United States.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
That's just insane.
Well, it's all part of this,
absolutely
though,
insane.
is so many of these bureaucratic types, these public servant types, have it's some kind of perverse disease that has infested government, where the more hoopla, the better you can have for the tops of the heap. And it's just gross because it's co-opting pageantry and symbolism from somewhere else to try to fluff your own ego.
Yeah.
As if your job should not matter to you more, but it doesn't, because at this point it's all ceremonial. You just have toadies doing all the work. And this is the perfect person to have toadies.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Jenna?
I just want to state that some people that go up the rank correctly and might be higher than in rank than other people don't do it to not see combat or not fight with their men. That there are real
Soldiers.
officers out there that are soldiers. They will say they're soldiers before officers because they're still they'll get in the trenches with their men.
Yeah. No. I understand. I mean, you have to.
Thank you, Geodes.
In the military, you have to have promotion for seasoned people who understand it, because it just requires tactical and logistical knowledge that you can't get from mere 3-week course at the War College. It's just not something that is transferable that way, or it shouldn't be something that is transferable that way. I mean, there has been a political class within the military for a very, very long time, and they've been highly problematic across our history. At that point, General McClellan always comes to mind. Ta-da! There's the patent card for Christ. You should never put him in charge of anything.
Well, you wouldn't say James is
He's not a political general.
no, he's
It's not the same thing. It's not. He's
And
not.
there's so many others that these
They,
swamp
they make a mockery
gen-
of them. Yeah.
and these swamp high officials just
The
they wouldn't
idea
survive
that
one day in the trenches.
the idea that this woman will be addressed with the same honorarium, and accorded the same deference that Bull Halsey earned
Ugh,
is rather
disgusting.
more than nauseating. It's just, it defies.
People need to. I'm just glad she was wearing a mask. So I didn't have to see her fucking face.
Yeah, it's.
Well,
Sorry, excuse my French.
Just as a kind of a look back at our earlier topic,
Yes.
I think people like Rachel Levine and General Mark Milley are may be an example of the problem that we're so completely risk averse.
Mhm.
You get generals like Milley, who is so risk averse, he would not push back against a president with an insane plan based on a purely political goal to get out of.
What do you think Rommel would
Afghanistan.
say about this, Skep?
Pardon me?
What do you think General
Sorry.
Rommel would think about this? Irvin Rommel.
Rommel?
Yeah.
Oh, Rommel would.
I'd pick a better
He
job.
would have taken somebody like Milley out and shot him. He would have just had him shot. That's
That's
just
yeah,
what
that's
they
somebody
did.
that
They had
I
a
think
very
Eisenhower.
aggressive zero defects.
Yeah, Eisenhower probably would have said, "Okay, no,
Zero
this time you really can. This time you really can shoot them." Because that's not. Mark Milley is a great example of a political general, a thorough rear
Thoroughgoing
motherfucker, and a chicken shit rat bastard, and that's just what you want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just what you want in the Pentagon. The Pentagon's crawling with those fuckers.
China is just fucking just drooling.
They're a bunch of political theorists.
Well, they're just going. It's all going to plan.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
Exactly.
everything is fine. What's going to happen is the supply chain thing is going to drag on for a couple of years, and pretty soon the shelves really will start to dry up a little bit. And then China is going to say, "Don't worry, America. We'll come to your rescue," and they will. And they will comport themselves in such a way that our burdens are eased, and we will bask in the glow of the new friendship that we have with our brand new friends, the Chinese, who just want to come over and help us with our country a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way this is going to go. I really do see that.
I would genuinely suspect that at any minute now we're going to see some kind of incredibly interesting dirt be dug up on DeSantis, because Lord God, you want to talk about somebody who knows how to throw a bomb in the middle of a precious little tea party being held by the self-congratulatory. That message he sent basically to cargo carriers worldwide. Florida is more than happy to serve through several ports your needs, since certain states seem incapable of handling the logistics. And also Florida is not a mandate state. Which, rumor has it, one of the reasons some of the trucking issues are arising at the ports is not only the way port protocols worked, but that some in particular indie truckers don't want to go in California because of the environmental environmental regulations, but they also don't want to go and mandate cities
Right.
or
Wow.
mandate states. And Florida, they can't do it. I mean, Texas would be wise to say, we'll do it too.
Yeah.
The problem is California is the direct route from Asia. Portage through the Panama Canal is time consuming and adds significant expense to the transport of goods. And that is an impediment. California is perfectly positioned. And the real problem is the entire fucking West Coast is retarded.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, you've got
Started
Washington
with-
State is imbecilic.
Differently abled.
And California, and I mean, we'd be better off, I swear to God, having these people dock in goddamn Monterey and offload the shit and truck it into the United States. You know, you pick Veracruz, pick a port somewhere in Central America or Mexico, a West Coast port. I'm not good on my ports, Acapulco, but.
I was going to say I talked with the wife today. My wife is ships cars all over the world, and she does it in two ways. She does what they call Rowe, roll on, roll off, and she also ships them via container. It just depends on the car or the earth mover or whatever she happens to be shipping. She was commenting that the part of the United States that's a mess right now is the West Coast. She said, I can't even get a container, on the West Coast. I'm having to do everything Rowe. We can still do Rowe on the West Coast, and but we can't even get a container. We can't get a chassis. Those are the wheels that go under the container to get it to the dock, and they just are in a complete quagmire with regards to those. So when she needs to do a container like a big car, something like that, here's what they do. They put it on a train and ship it to Houston. The train goes to Houston because Houston has no problem. All the containers are freely, moving there. There's no problem in and out. There's no problem getting chassis.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, and it's a couple of the east ports and the entire West Coast that's a mess with respect to containers. So I just thought you might be interested to hear a report from the field. That's what she was dealing with today.
Yeah,
It's actually funny that you bring up the stuff on the West Coast too, because there's a report on the news earlier today about, and this was a slightly separate issue, but it was about the number of people leaving over certain mandates. I don't want to get into it, from like law enforcement or the fire department and stuff like that. And guess which city they brought up as an example of where this is hitting most with these mandates?
Salinas, California.
Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
That's a good guess. I wanted to delve into what Skep was talking about a bit more, which was the thing about the containers, because I had an exchange with a nice lady who I haven't dealt with her too many times, but she sells tea in bulk. And by bulk, I mean the smallest amount you can buy of one thing is 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing these supply chain problems, and I was feeling pretty motivated to not run out of black tea. So I got out the credit card and started, using the Rolodex and calling up people and trying to get stuff and using the internet. So I get a call from this woman after I placed an order for 6 pounds of tea. And she's like, well, I don't have 2 of the 3 you want. I've got 3 2-pound containers of this one thing that you ordered. I'll send them all to you for the same price. And that's all the tea I have. I said, excuse me? That's all the tea I have.
Wow.
That is the end of her inventory, is 6 pounds.
So she's now carrying 0 inventory risk.
She's now carrying 0
That's
inventory.
That's the good news.
Yeah,
That's the good news that Pete was talking about. But I spoke with her a bit about her particular supply chain problems, and we got into the discussion of containers. She said, you can't get a container, and if you do get a container, it's not $2,500 now to move it; it's $5,000. And even if you pay that money, you can't necessarily get anybody to load or unload it.
Right, exactly.
So
Yes.
I don't even know where to begin with this. I did a little bit of research and was looking into it, preparing for the Saturday show. And apparently 2 of the ports down there, I guess LA and Long Beach, I want to say, the current administration made some kind of deal which allows for them to function 24 hours a day.
Yes.
I don't really feel like I understand what the freaking problem is. You know, whether it's a container shortage, a labor shortage.
Okay.
I
can
I
help
really
you a
don't
little
get
bit.
it. Yeah,
I can help you a
break
little
it down for me because I don't
Okay.
understand.
The containers are there. They can't get them to the docks because the people will not move them to the docks. There aren't enough people to do the work. There are not enough people to do the work, and I know there's also been some labor problems, but I think primarily the problem is it's a labor shortage. The containers are there, the chassis could be there, but they're not because they're in other parts of the country because chassis like to be employed, and so they go down to Houston where there's lots of people to do the work. And but as I understand it, the port at San Pedro in Long Beach is undermanned. That's my understanding from Brenda.
And it's not going to help that there are certain, as she has mentioned, mandates that will not be discussed that are putting negative pressure.
That's part of the reason they're undermanned.
Yeah.
We can't discuss
Right.
those things.
Well, that's part of the reason that trucking is undermanned and a lot of other things, which is why Texas and now Florida has raised their hand in the air saying, you know, we have ports. We have pretty good ports. Come on down. But
Well,
I mean, it's annoying to me that I have a governor of the ilk right now who would say, well, we do too, but we're good people and we're not going to engage.
There's
in
no
them."
there's no problem also
for
in
you.
Jacksonville, Florida. There's no problem there either.
Oh, I
Well,
wouldn't expect there would be.
I was going to quickly add that the only reason I brought that up too was they were the excuse that it's just because of these quote unquote mandates that this city is having a problem, which is total BS. But anyways, yeah, continue.
Yeah, it's not, but it's a factor. One of the things that concerns me, well, it doesn't concern me, it amuses me. I haven't heard anyone suggest this yet, but I'm waiting. Well, can't we get the National Guard to help?
Yeah.
I've been waiting.
Let's hope they're smart enough to stay away from that. Did you hear Jen Psaki mock Peter Ducey when he asked about this? And he said, she said the national tragedy of somebody not able to get their treadmill. And my God,
we're not talking about treadmills.
Well, Peter Ducey had used that as he said, you want to get a treadmill, you can't get it shipped to you. And she said, oh, the tragedy of somebody not being able to get your treadmill. Hun, you're missing the point. The store shelves are getting empty and Ma and Pa Kettle can't get their basics. And we're going to start running out of things that really hurt us soon.
Harry's Tea Broker is going to go out of business. If she doesn't have inventory to move, as you said, the only good news is She doesn't have any inventory.
She's the canary in the coal mine.
That
Prospero,
provides
don't
tax,
you think?
right? Oh, absolutely. That provides tax liability. There are shit tons of middlemen that move goods. They receive the shipments come in, they package them up, and off they go. And I mean, for the administration to even respond to this by saying we're going to have the Port of Los Angeles is going to work 24/7 with whom? That's why I kept waiting for some asshole to suggest the fucking National Guard, which, of course, Newsom would order them to do. I can absolutely see other states saying our boys aren't coming over to do that shit.
Well, the thing is,
Newsom can bend
that's
over and take
That's skilled work.
Yeah, it is skilled
You
work.
can't just put the National Guard in there and say, you know,
stevedores will lose their shit if they have a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing running around.
well, they just literally would not be able to do it.
No,
Well, there's an
literally would
easy
not know it.
solution. Easy solution if you're Joe Biden. Why are we solving a local problem when we could just have a national solution? We just nationalize all of the docks
Oh, shut up.
and compel them, or we could deputize all of the people who work at the docks and then compel
Yeah.
them
Don't.
to get the
Give them
vaccination and then
ideas.
release them back into the wild.
Don't give them
The
ideas.
day,
Nobody
the day
listens
that
to
he,
me. That's
the
the
day
good
that
thing.
the day that he says that will be the day that suddenly Kamala Harris comes out and says, "We're very sad to report
Yeah.
that I am now the president of the United States," and we all will be sad for different reasons. But Joe Biden
Could
will have
I
a
ask
fatal
Prospero my
accident when
question?
that happens. I think.
What do you want to say, Jenna?
I wanted to know, Prospero, is it true that Governor Blackface is like or tied to this unknown?
No. That's not Governor Blackface who's running for re-election. It is the governor that preceded Governor Blackface is trying to become governor again. And yes, some of the polls have it at roughly a statistical tie with.
Yeah, he's a Clinton boy, isn't he?
Oh,
The
yeah.
unflushable Terry McAuliffe.
Terry McAuliffe was the one that was selling the Lincoln bedroom for donations. Just to remind you how
So
Clintonista he actually is. Those
I'm sorry, he
opportunistic
tried to-
cunts.
Yeah.
They were brokering nights. You could spend a night at the Lincoln bedroom.
I remember that. I was little.
He was the guy
And-
who was doing that. That's our boy, carpetbagger Terry McAuliffe. That's the guy.
For
Sorry, they have to
$100,000,
remember.
you got the Lincoln bedroom and you got to sleep with Hillary. For $250,000, Hillary goes away.
Yeah, that was about it. That was about the size of it. Yeah,
But
I mean,
the Lincoln bedroom wasn't even his bedroom. It was where the autopsy was done.
yeah, nobody cares, Jenna. They like the romance of it. They don't. That would require knowing things. They don't know things. They just have a lot of money that they like to give
Come on,
their corrupt friends.
people. I brain damage and I know this. Get better.
Yeah.
It's not unfair. That's not
You know,
unfair
that
at
is
all.
not unfair at all. Yeah, Terry McAuliffe was also the person who, in part, helped engineer the whole Charlottesville thing because he pulled the permit. He is the one who declared that the gathering could not take place, which started the fighting as the people were cleared from the park.
I heard
He
I thought
basically
him-
mandated that no, this is there's too much opportunity for mischief here. Shut it all down. I remember that very clearly because I went on Facebook and said something really rude about him because he did. I mean, that was a Bigfoot that was not required, and it led to
Most
some-
bigfooting is not required. Actually.
and it was a direct repression of the free assembly and free speech rights of the individuals who had applied for the permit to be in the park that day. Now, the fact that the chuckle fucks like Baked Alaska and those other people all had to come in from out of town for that Unite the Right shit. That was an unfortunate sideshow that developed. And of course, that triggered the Antifa types who wanted to be there to protest them. And then we got what we got. But I still think he had a role to play in that by inserting himself in this, because Orange Man bad. Somebody in this group had to have voted for Orange Man bad.
You know, you
I
make an
saw.
Go ahead.
I saw. I'm gonna call him B4 Blackface. Coming out of some meeting, and he was being asked questions, and he yelled, "Why aren't you wearing a mask? It's gonna ruin schools." And that's literally what he sounded like. I'm not.
Oh, he
it
is
sounded
a
like, open
he's
your
a
mouth.
he's
and
a
pronounce
bully.
it.
He's a bully.
Didn't he tell a reporter today you should have asked better questions?
Yeah, I'm sure he did, because he also in the debate said he didn't think that parents should dictate
I saw that.
what's taught in schools.
Yeah.
And Glenn Youngkin's entire team stood up and applauded, because it was like, thank you. Thank you. Forever we have a soundbite of you saying that parents shouldn't have anything to do with the schools, because that's what people heard when they heard that statement. Now, I could parse it legally and say they shouldn't be dictating what's taught in the schools because they're not experts in curriculum and that kind of stuff. But having met enough education majors, I think we'd be safer if
Neither
parents
are they.
were dictating what the fuck was taught in the schools. They pay for the schools, after all. But how dare you expect to have a voice in your child's education, you filthy pleb? And that's the attitude these people have.
Yeah,
Terry McAuliffe
Easy.
is a goddamn nightmare, and the idea of
You
having him for another 4 years as governor of Virginia on some fucking technicality in how the state constitution was written is irritating as hell to me.
McAuliffe thinks he can be president. He really wants to be president.
Yeah, he's got so much Clinton baggage hanging around his neck. He doesn't stand a tinker's chance in hell.
Well, I don't know about that, because
I am sorry for changing the
With-
subject for a minute.
What? Okay, he really in these days of free and fair elections,
Yeah,
they could do some of the free and fair.
Oh, they're
magic.
gonna free and fair
And-
the fuck out of Northern Virginia, honey.
Yeah, exactly. And they've even said, look, it's Northern Virginia is going to be the last to report, and expect a big return in.
Well, you saw what Fairfax County requested.
Yeah, I did. That's
The whole thing about
why don't you talk about that a little
Well,
bit?
no, it was the thing about the mail-in ballots that they. God, I can't remember now whether it was. They didn't want signature matching for the mail-in ballots.
And why was that?
Well, good Lord, I cannot imagine why.
It was inefficient. It would slow them down.
Yes.
And they're, as it is, they're late reporters. They're always the last to report, and they they wanted to. It's not really useful. It doesn't really serve any purpose.
It's such a populous region because it's full of government employees.
Yeah.
It is reliably blue. It is just blue. It was blue years ago. Because
they call it Virginia Stand, and they're not wrong.
Well, yeah, because if you're not talking to a government worker, you're talking to somebody who's going to a Wahhabi school.
Yep.
Well, did you notice that the Brahmapotamus has thrown her weight behind McAuliffe?
Of course she has. And
She
McAuliffe tried to distance himself from Biden, and then Biden came and campaigned for him, and then they brought Black Jesus in.
Well, what did the real governor of Georgia? What did the real governor of Georgia say, Harry?
Well, it's the crap that you'd expect that she would say about why you should vote for McAuliffe, right? And how important it is for progressives to win. And she sat up there and did her little charisma thing for, gosh, I think she was up there for 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, she talked for a long time. Well, McAuliffe stood behind her looking like he'd done something wrong and was told to stand in the corner. It was pretty funny.
I can just imagine that.
Yeah,
Step out of the way of an empowered black woman.
Yeah, because of course she's not really there to help him. She's there to help herself. That's the way this works.
Oh,
And she has, she has kind of a natural cunning, not the same natural cunning that AOC has, a different natural cunning, sort of in the same neighborhood, though. The same kind of grifter cunning that she has to try to manipulate things. Yeah, it was just disturbing to see her. I can only put up with so much of it. It's like, oh my God, is this woman still talking, scrub? And then
The
just go to
Twitch,
end of it.
Twitch thoughts of politics.
Yeah, but a number of people did in the comments were right to say, what does she have to do with the Virginia election? Yeah, that's a great point.
Nothing.
Why
It's all
should we care
national
about
now.
her?
It's all national now. You've got an Illinois Democrat sounding off about how insignificant West Virginia is
Longfoot?
economically. No. A senator, a representative or senator from Illinois. I can't remember. Not a senator. Some chick full of shit. Blahing about nobody cares what West Virginia thinks. This is as if you can in the United States Senate suddenly negate Joe Manchin's votes and opinions and any words stated on matters on the Senate floor because you in Illinois have deemed that West Virginia is insignificant. And now, while we're mentioning Illinois real briefly, this is your message that they have been teetering on the edge of insolvency for 2 decades now. And I'm sure they're going to go for 3.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't remember. I don't know who here listens to Scott Adams occasionally. I sometimes find his analysis to be interesting.
Yeah.
He was on, I think it was yesterday morning, and he was making a comment which made me happy because I thought I was the only one sort of beating this particular drum, which is, what business is it of mine to decide what they do with like Confederate flags over the Capitol in North Carolina? None of my business. There's a lot of stuff that's local, and I think people should just kind of stay in their lane, I guess is what the kids call it these days, a little bit more. We were talking about the Abrahmopotamus, and yeah, she really should just stay the hell out of it. It shouldn't be national at all.
Well, that's the problem.
More people should do what I've been saying and what Scott was saying. He was talking about the issue of, I think, removing the Jefferson statue, and it's like it's not his place to comment. It's a local thing.
Why
If we
are
would
we
start
moving
treating
Jefferson?
treating local things as local, and we all learn to just kind of like stay out of things that don't concern us, I think the world would be a better place.
Abolish the 17th Amendment and you'll get some of your wish. The direct election of senators in a popular style election like federal, like the executive is elected, did not help, because when your state legislature and your governor were responsible for appointing your senators, you gave a shit who sat in your state house and who sat in the House of Delegates, House of Representatives, whatever the body was called. People don't care now. The only reason anybody's occupying any of those offices is they have an eye on DC. There are still, in every state in this country, there are still people that go to their capital to serve their district. There are still active public servants in this country. I mean, I don't want to throw all of the people who are involved in politics under the bus, because I think that is grotesque. But most of them are trying to see if they can get their star to rise within their party, and then they can become the congressional representative for a larger swath of people.
That's what almost all of the state houses, I think, have become. They become the farm club for Congress.
Yeah, and I mean, there are rural counties like in Virginia. Virginia has Massachusetts has 3/4 the population of Virginia, but 6 million and change in a much smaller geographic area. We have 8 million. There are people out in Rockingham County and the counties out in the Southwest that are intensely rural and agrarian, who are coming to Richmond to try to speak for their constituency. They know that their chances are slim to none of being noticed for national office because their districts are just vast, and there's going to be something approaching a metropolitan area.
I was really referring more to the ones who come from places like Alexandria, Arlington,
Fairfax County,
and also to an extent, Richmond.
The Richmond area, absolutely. That's
those guys want to be in Congress.
Oh yeah, they do, and most of them, the ones who are particularly gifted at politics, and usually the ones who are the most articulate or are very well connected to the party structure, the DNC or the GOP, will get there. They will get there, and then they will stay there forever. Yeah. Because the electorate is lazy. It's a name they recognize. People do not look into these individuals. They don't notice, like I did, that the individual, when we move next year, who represents my congressional district, voted yes for the fucking red flag laws that apply to the military. I'd like a word with him.
I don't think you could limit yourself to one word.
I don't know. Yelling asshole might make me feel better. But actually Quisling, I think, would be what I would yell at him. You and your road to hell, for all your good intentions. Dan Crenshaw can go pound sand for all I care about. How dare he? Elitist little seal turd. Talk about taking a shit down on the enlisted men. But there he went. And there he did it. 135, I believe, other Republicans did this. Look them up. Chase them down if they're your district representative. Go to some meeting and ask them.
I know that you're talking about the red flag laws. Why don't you explain what those are?
Red flag laws are laws where family members or concerned neighbors, in some cases, but generally family, can ask that the police remove the weapons from the home of a lawful gun owner.
They can ask to investigate.
To investigate, but
the police will have the power to.
The power to, and they have done so in the past.
Yeah.
Remove the weapons from the home. They very early on, with one of the first red flag laws, the Maryland one, they killed the man. All because a cousin or an aunt, I believe, was concerned about him having weapons in the house.
The gun of my aunt is on the bureau of my uncle.
Yeah.
I know.
Le grand démon des matins est sur le bureau de mon oncle. It's applying this only to the military, I find very concerning, particularly at a time when we have seen the military doing right think vetting.
Mm-hmm.
And that in the face of that right think vetting, that any Republican would vote for this is disgusting to me. I understand there is a concern about some of the post-traumatic psychoses that certain people have developed. We all know that Chris Kyle was killed by a vet, but once again, risk aversion and grave concerns for the safety of the children outweighs civil liberties to a point that the civil liberties erode. And if you can do this to the military, my friends, they'll happily do it to the civilians.
You know, Prospero, what it reminds me of is the old story about the guy who's lost his car keys, and he's out in it's dark, and there's a light, street light, and the guy is looking around on the ground under the street light, and somebody comes up to him and says, "What are you doing?" He says, I lost my car keys. I'm looking for them." And the guy says, "Oh, did you lose them around here?" And the guy who's looking under the streetlight says, "No, but the light is better here. I lost them someplace else, but I'm looking here because the light is better here."
Mm-hmm.
I saw something on YouTube that really kind of got my attention. This is an old bugaboo of mine that really, it's a huge problem where we think we can solve the drug problem by by arresting all the drug users, and then we say, well, we're going to take all the opiates away. Opiates are fine painkillers. Steven Crowder could not get opiates for his post-surgery pain because he was out of state, and there was a law that says they could only give him a 7-day supply, and he would need more than 7 days. See it, major thoracic surgery. That's just a hugely painful operation. The recovery is very painful, and he could not get pain pills, and so he just had to do without it. This is because they are not there. Nobody wants to prescribe opiates because of the legal liability. It's become a political thing and that's not helping. That doesn't help the opiate problem. That's not how you stop, taking opiates out of the hands of the legitimate users is almost an exact analog of taking guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the problem. Guns in the hands of people who are not breaking the law with their guns is not the problem with guns. The only commonality to it is that there are guns involved. Same thing with opiates. The only commonality is that opiates are involved. You have to, but since that's the easy thing to do, that's analogous to searching for your car keys underneath the light post, even though you didn't lose them there because the light is better. It's an easier thing to do, and it has the appearance, well, I'm doing the same things as if I were actually searching for my car keys with the hope of finding them. It has that verisimilitude kind of a feeling that, well, at least we're doing something. And a lot of people, that's all the thought that they give it. They don't think any deeper than that.
It's preemptive policing in the name of safety. And it is a mistake that we're making over and over again. From a purely civil liberties standpoint, stop and frisk makes me very uncomfortable. Notions of probable cause are highly fungible, and given what I consider our substandard training of police in the law, in the actual law, it is very easily abused. It is broken window policing, but this is before the rock's even thrown. And I find that very disturbing because that is greasing that slippery slope where thought crime comes in down the pike. I saw something. I found this incredibly disturbing. It was something. Geodes, you posted it. It was the article about harassing emails and tweets have been brought up in the instance of this murder of this PM.
Yes. Yeah.
In Great Britain. And I mean, my instantaneous response is, for fuck's sake, he was stabbed. He wasn't talked to death.
Yeah. It's the slow march of the political political elite effectively trying to claim that, oh, we're solving problems, we're coming up with solutions, and what they're really doing is taking away civil liberties from everywhere. And this is not just, this is in Britain in this case, but it happens everywhere. I
And
mean,
they're free associating problems with each other.
mhm.
Yes, there are people who make harassing phone calls. There are people who make threatening phone calls. It is a crime to threaten to do bodily harm to someone over the telephone.
Mhm.
Which is why this whole notion of the FBI is going to investigate all these people who are upset about CRT and that kind of no. You had in, it wasn't Waukesha, but it was some location in Wisconsin, that there had been a fair bit of harassment of the school board from the public at large, including threats.
Wasn't that Waukesha?
And I don't think it was, but
Okay.
I think it may have been. It doesn't.
All right,
it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. In Podunk, wherever, people were getting threatening letters, harassed, whatever these vague threats are. Correct, and so you call in the Department of Justice's Stasi to take care of this. No. Phones are being used. Well, they might be burner phones, and we're going. Well, why don't you fucking investigate that first? Why don't you see if there's a genuine material threat before you go absolutely full Stasi on people? But no, they go from 0 to 100 because won't someone please think of the children? What if just one of those threats is real? Well, you're going to need to have a very specific material threat. That's what it used to require before the FBI would even take a look at anything. I'm going to stick a blah device inside a blah blah and blah blah you up.
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
there had to be something concrete and material, not I'd like to beat all y'all within an inch of your life.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Giat?
Oh, I was just going to say, I want to know when we got to the point, and this is true for Western society in general, but mostly I'm talking about the U.S. here. Where do we get to the point where, frankly, and this is kind of going to be a bit, maybe sound a bit bizarre, but single acts led to massive legislation, like in terms of, in this case, it was the stabbing, and it's like in this case talking about Britain, but talking about the stabbing there, then going on to coming up with new hate speech laws. It's like, if this is able to happen in just a single case, then what about, like, and this is hypothetical, but let's say a government that wasn't being completely honest about its legislation, what it was trying to do,
A government like that.
Yeah, creating a scenario that could
Any government, in other words.
Yeah, exactly. It's like creating a
I know what I
scenario
was saying.
where they could then pass more legislation at any time they want. And this is what just I find so frustrating with people, is it's like, you don't get it. If politicians are allowed to do this with single events, then we're done for. Like, we're done.
The Las Vegas shooter, bump stocks gone.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that saved a lot of lives, didn't it?
Yeah, no, we have,
We'll never know how many lives were saved.
There was an event in the
It didn't save any
1960s when
lives.
Skep and I were young people, where a gentleman, it turned out later, he had a brain tumor.
Oh yeah, Texas, the Texas Tower.
The
shooting.
Bell Tower shooting. And it was a shocking event when it occurred, because it was just such a deliberate assassination of individuals walking
I mean,
around.
it was a goody two shoes engineering student.
Yeah, and nothing about him fit any kind of sinister model.
No.
So it was perplexing. But at no point in that discussion did anyone suggest that rifles be banned. They were far more concerned about what on earth caused this young man to do this.
And by the way, that situation was handled by one cop with balls the size of watermelons.
Uh-huh.
I have a question.
Somebody
Was
didn't
this
have
the
high risk
person-
aversion.
No kidding. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jenna.
Was this the person that shot the nurses?
No. That
No,
was
no.
Richard Speck in Chicago. The guy we're talking about was he was a University of Texas student at Austin, and is a big tower that call it the Bell Tower that on campus that towers over literally the campus, many stories in the air, and provides just a perfect sniper's nest. And he just started shooting professors and students on the quad, and he shot and killed a number of people. I mean, he had a deer rifle with a scope. Essentially, it was not an assault rifle, by the way, although he did use it to assault people. But
I hate to say that, laugh at that, but that's
God's own truth. And then a policeman who just said, "This is time for this to be over," literally just went up to the top and snuck around and just faced him straight on. And as the guy was bringing the gun to bear on him, just filled him up with his service revolver.
yeah. He killed
Good for that.
He killed 14 people on campus, 3 inside the university
Yeah.
tower.
Don't say his name, please.
Oh no, I have no intention of saying it. Although it
Yeah, they
it
don't deserve
does.
that.
I mean, he killed a total of 16 people. The 16th died 35 years later, but because it was injuries due,
Yeah.
and an unborn child. I mean, he used knives to kill his mother and wife. He's not in that regard unlike the guy that blew up the school in Bath Township, Michigan.
Oh yeah. There are people like
multi-method
control-
psychotic break.
Gun control is not going to stop people who want to get their hands on a gun to do bad things.
No.
No, look at
it won't.
Chicago, who has the strictest gun rules.
Yes,
But
it has very strict gun
Has
control.
that cop been? I mean, he's a true hero.
Oh yeah, and he was recognized.
He
as
went
such.
up there by himself, and think about the cop that was on ground patrol for the shooting in 2018. He hid behind his car, shivering while innocent children were killed.
Well,
And this other cop went up there. And
Oh, you're talking about
just
the sheriff's
killed.
department in Florida?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
I'm
were
talking about-
waiting instructions.
Yeah, there again, procedural risk aversion instructions.
Yeah. Go be a cop. There
yeah,
you have your instructions.
your job is children are being killed, which is why like the guys that came from the other locality and basically were like, fuck this shit. There's trouble over here and we're nearby. Initially they were going to get in trouble because they had left their jurisdiction to render aid, and then everybody said sit down and don't talk about that anymore because gross. But
jurisdiction, my child's in danger.
yeah, right.
I don't care if you're coming from Texas to Massachusetts.
If it
you're
had been a
there to
school
protect my
lady who
kid-
had fished her 38 out of a purse and walked up in the hall behind that kid and sent him to Jesus before he could shoot anybody else, it would have been a good thing. But the minute somebody suggests that you have armed people in schools and don't publicize who they are so that you might serve as a deterrent.
Let me take this moment to read you what Ray Martinez did that day in
the police officer.
Yes. He was born in Kent County, Texas, and graduated from high school in 1956. He enrolled in the University of Texas at Austin, but he ran out of money And after 3 years as a combat medic in the United States Army, he joined the Austin Police Department, graduating from the Police Academy in 1961. Martinez was off duty August 1st, 1966, when he learned via television of the Texas Tower sniper shooting. Arriving at the campus, Martinez went to the top of the tower with civilian Alan Crum, another guy with big balls. Martinez dislodged a dolly used by the gunman to block the door that led to the observation deck of the main building tower at the University of Texas. And Martinez and Crum went out the door, and as Crum guarded the south side, Martinez went around to the southeast side to find the shooter. Officer Houston McCoy came to the top of the tower with Officer Jerry Day. Crum told the officers where Martinez was. McCoy, armed with a shotgun, caught up with Martinez, and they noticed Whitman sitting in the opposite corner. Martinez jumped out and fired in the direction of Whitman, missing with all of his revolver shots. I thought he hit him with a revolver, but McCoy leaped out while Martinez was firing and saw Whitman's head looking over the light balance. McCoy fired at the top of the ballast, hitting Whitman between the eyes with several pellets, killing him instantly. That's the way that it happened. So he actually missed with the shots that he put, but the guy turned around and exposed himself, and the second cop who was behind him came up and hit him with a shotgun in the face.
So sad.
Well, all I have to say is thank God for those two men.
Yeah, because they had a task
Saved
before
lives.
them. Yeah.
And they saw the mission, they took the mission, and they succeeded with the mission.
Yep, that
Not
is
that I'm a military wife
purpose,
or anything.
but that's a purpose-driven life too.
An interesting, odd thing that happened in 1976, Ray Martinez received an undisclosed but huge out-of-court settlement after suing the producers of the made-for-TV film The Deadly Tower for negative and racist depictions of his wife, who was portrayed in the movie as a nagging, hideous Hispanic woman. In fact, she is a blonde, blue-eyed German.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had to, because his last name was Martinez, assume that he would own, not understanding at all the old families of Texas and the number of Hispanic surnames that are in Texas and have been for, I don't know, 2 centuries now?
And German city names. Yeah.
And German, like New Braunfeld.
Green.
But
Pronounced green.
but they're gonna have to go in. Well, it's what it means, right? Going.
Yeah.
So it's just skip it. We're gonna call it the English equivalent. I love Texas. They're like, you don't like how we pronounce things? Leave. They just had to go for a trope, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then that shit was already happening.
What did they think?
Yeah, that all, apparently all.
Did they think Officer Martinez took his wife's name? I know they didn't.
They would assume that a Mexican married a Mexican.
That's exactly what they did.
Oh,
and because
How
a
dare I
Hispanic
think outside the
surname means that you identify as Mexican. Even though all the people with Hispanic surnames in Texas would be like, what? What?
There are some blue-eyed blonde Germans with Hispanic surnames, believe it or not, in Texas.
Of course there are.
You have to go down.
well, yeah,
to New
Mrs.
Braunfels.
Martinez.
Yeah, of course there are. Because people aren't as stupid as effete nitwits think they are.
And they talk like that. My name's Ignacio Jimenez.
Mm-hmm. I remember the good old.
They're half Mexican, half German, and all Texan.
Yeah, I remember the good old boy that bordered one of the bush ranches, and his name was something like John Espinosa. That kind of. It's like not
Juan.
one, but John. And,
Exactly.
you know, he's like, y'all aren't from around here, are you? You know, it's
Yeah.
just because
My
like, well, we found a brown man. Let's go talk to the brown man. And the brown man's like, I tan good. My
My,
family's been here 150 years.
first-
What were you going to say, Jenna?
I know
sorry.
where this technically isn't blacks in them, but so Carl and Isa, or Carlos and Isabel Vasquez. Vasquez.
Yeah,
so
they're
what
Puerto
part of-
Ricanian, right?
what?
They're Puerto Ricanian, right?
Yeah, I was gonna joke. So, what part of Europe do you think they're from?
Spain.
No, but yeah, Carlos and Isabel Vasquez.
Well,
Just because when I actually had the, that's not their names now, and no, I will not tell you what their last name is.
Thank you, Jenna.
It's not Vasquez.
But the peculiarity is that assumptive paternalism. Because there's no other name for it. It's that same.
It's laziness is actually what it is. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, let's kind of cap off the evening and get some policy prescription. What are some concrete things, actual actions that we could do as a nation? And it can be anything from, you know, in the government to institutional action to personal actions. You know, the floor is wide open. I can't even completely frame this question. I just want the madness to stop. What are things that we could do, really achievable things that are realistic, that with the right motivation we could pursue to turn the tide of what's going on in our country?
Well, there's some
Or-
easy
or
ones.
can we? Well, like what, Harry?
I'm not sure if I.
Well, I mean, there's nothing quick that we can do, you know, short of some disaster coming along or an alien invasion. And I mean the ones from outer space. I don't mean to make Demi Lovato sad, but I'm still going to continue to call people from outside the Earth aliens too.
Yeah, triggered.
Oh, Demi, suck it up.
What needs to happen is that men and women of good conscience need to start making better decisions, because a lot of stuff is sort of downstream of culture. We need a culture shift where serious men and serious women start to make much better choices about who they pick to share their lives with. And we need people who aren't afraid of being men and being women to start getting together and forming families again. And we need to convince young men to not put their penis in crazy and not sacrifice themselves. It's like, find somebody worthy of you and let them find, you know, a person in you that's worthy of them, and start, you know, raising kids and taking care of your family and fixing the stuff that you're directly responsible for. If that becomes the dominant culture again, or even starts to become an attractive culture that other people want to aspire to, things will eventually fix themselves. But it means that a lot of people are going to have to make a lot of tough choices. Maybe instead of being attracted to the woman who's really, really cute and has a social media presence, find a woman who knows how to change a tire.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that people are making the wrong choices and they just need to get serious.
Maybe instead of wasting 10 hours on social media, spend a little time with your kids and teach them how to change a tire.
Yeah.
Talk to them. Sit down and, like Jenna does with her family, have dinner with them.
Well,
You know,
exactly.
I think people undervalue those
we
things.
we eat dinner together.
The ordinary is actually extraordinary now. You know, what we all considered ordinary, those of us of a certain age, and normal, and just what everybody did, I mean, no one in the neighborhood I grew up in, unless it was like a Saturday night and for some reason special, everybody got to eat off TV trays. And those were special events.
Disney movies were on.
Yeah, well, or Jackie Gleason was on, that kind of thing. Saturday night in front of the TV, woo. But that was like the TV dinner. It was not a common thread of the existence of my generation by any stretch.
Dinner was had at the dinner table.
Yes, it was had at the dinner table,
Yes,
and you were going to be there on time.
It was at a particular time, exactly.
Yeah, and unless Dad got delayed in traffic, and then it'll be when he gets home and give him a minute, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was, you sat down and you talked about your day.
Yeah.
Dad said his piece about work, and Mom said her piece about what went on, and the kids said their piece about how school went, or Little League, or this, that, or the other. And it was Andy Griffith's fuck. But everybody touched base and had their finger on the pulse of everyone else in the family to some extent. People didn't lose track of each other, and they didn't, speak in code. Text messaging is like passing messages.
Yes,
It's like sending telegrams to people. It is proximity at a remove.
Well, it's riskless.
not
There's no risk in it. When you're physically proximate to a person, there's a little more risk in interacting with them.
Oh, they could get angry when you tell a particular story about some stupid thing you did at school, not thinking that it might make them angry.
Well, if they get mad online, you can just ghost
block them.
Yeah, and exactly. And but if you're there in person, boy, that could get uncomfortable. You might have to face a difficult thing. You might actually have to have a difficult conversation. We have become so afraid of difficult conversations that I think that's one of the key things that we're doing wrong societally. Is as soon as it looks like a difficult conversation is looming, we run away from that shit.
Yeah, I've got some more stuff too.
Sure. What else you got, Harry?
Start training people and training yourself to not need immediate gratification. And that can take many forms. It can be taking 10% of whatever you make and putting it in the bank to buy a house. It can be not buying anything on credit that doesn't have like a business case for why you actually need something to save money ultimately. Like, it doesn't make any sense to allow something to break in a way that requires it to be replaced. That's a legitimate use for credit. But to get something that you can't afford because you don't have the money to buy it on credit is a very, very bad idea. This whole thing about time preference is really important. Because everything, in terms of making better choices about things, it's critical that you don't give in to every whim that comes along. Credit is a very bad thing. Indolence is a very bad thing. There are a lot of really bad things that people have fallen into. And the worst thing you can tell somebody is this: if you set your mind to it, you can have everything you want. Nobody ever gets everything they want unless they literally decide that they need nothing. And those people, I mean, yes, absolutely fine. But you cannot have it all. Nobody can have it all. And this is a lesson that people aren't learning. You can have a lot. You can have enough. You can even feel good about the things you earn. But you can't have it all. And if you set people up with that expectation, they're just going to fail.
I agree.
Well,
can I? Oh, sorry, Gio.
Go ahead, Gio.
I was just going to throw in the thing that I think might be useful. And I realize it's not necessarily true for every family. It wouldn't necessarily work out in every situation, but for the people who are, like Harry was saying, serious about, finding somebody who isn't crazy, and all this other stuff. seriously consider homeschooling if you're able to, because I think it's safe to say at this point the educational institution is not your friend. They have no interest in actually teaching your kids anything that is terribly useful. You're better off in many ways teaching kids on your own, or at the very least, maybe doing some kind of hybrid of, I don't know, tutoring and teaching, and I don't know, whatever you're able to do on your own. But if you're able to do it, so
Be actively involved, in other words, in your child's education.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I
Go
have
ahead.
just one quick comment. I've seen this in a few friends, and I am by no means trying to re-stigmatize divorce. But part of that delayed gratification that Harry mentioned, the time preference, and it is easy to make a mistake or discover a mistake or have someone be so radically changed that things shift. But we have had a very high divorce rate in this country for a while.
Yeah.
People are
I've
getting
certainly
married.
done my part.
People are getting married, I believe, too quickly and for the wrong reasons. Lust and love are not the same. And yeah, you can always be your own best friend when it comes to certain desires that need certain itches that need scratching, rather than just shagging your way into divorce after divorce, which happens far too frequently. It needs to be careful life goal consideration.
Yeah, I do think a lot of that problem is what I've said before, and that is that women look at men like houses and think about future value and characteristics and components and stuff. When men look at women like cheeseburgers. Nice cheeseburger. Well, I'm off to the next cheeseburger.
Well, we destigmatize sluttishness, particularly in men, because
Hell,
even
it's encouraged.
yeah, and even in the day where it was always whispered how men were libertine, and it was not unexpected that a man not be a virgin on his wedding night, but his wife be a virgin. It wasn't as slutty as it is today. It wasn't just people engaging in persistent mutual masturbation. Because that's what they're doing. They don't know anybody about the people they're sleeping with, and value yourself more highly than that. And
have a little more self-respect.
Your physical autonomy matters, and who gets access to your personal parts should be part of that.
Yeah, but we won't solve that one tonight.
No. But I think it's.
I do appreciate the insight. I do think it's profoundly related to the cultural trends that we talked about. It's absolutely relevant and on point.
Real quick, I think Jenna had one as well.
Yes, Jenna.
Well, yeah, I did want to. So, I think this, but no electronics at the table, eating dinner, and all of your kids and your spouse being there, but also bedtime. Spending that time reading a book to your child, tucking them in. We don't have nightlights in our house.
Your children will bloom.
And so I do have more than the average amount of children. So what James and I do is we make sure that when we go into the 5-year-old's room, the 5-year-old girl room, we make sure to sit on all 5 beds throughout the week. So
it's like every
gets
sperm
a chance.
is sacred family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and tucking them in, giving them a kiss and saying, "I love you, I'll see you in the morning." Yeah. That is so important. if they
It
don't
is.
feel loved, not like psychotic love like helicopter moms, but just know that mommy and daddy are always gonna, we might not bail you out of situations, but we'll have your back and be cheering you on.
Mommy loves her little
And
baby who gets A's and makes mommy look important. Right, little one?
Shit.
mommy loves her little baby that doesn't curse out the person because they've heard mommy curse out the person or daddy threatened to.
But anyway,
Never
we
mind.
could probably go
But
on and on, and
just
maybe that's
quality
a
time.
topic for another time. Yeah, quality time.
Yeah,
I
learn
mean,
how to love somebody other than yourself.
Yeah.
Jen
now that
and
it's
I
turning
could
into the
probably-
trad stream.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, exactly. Well, Jen and I could throw down on
That
for
term irritates the
hours,
shit
probably.
out of me. That's
Based,
another.
man. Based.
That is
Yeah,
another
totally based.
thing that I'm offended by. Trad, like it's
I don't know.
something disgusting.
Yeah.
What
like
is
it's something
that? Well, I
wrong.
don't know what you're
It's an
talking about.
epithet.
Traditional.
Well, traditional.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we have been going for 2 hours and a little bit more, and I have just enjoyed tonight's stream immensely. I want to thank chat for coming out and watching us and hanging with us. We do this for you, and we do it for fun for ourselves too. I want to thank the panel, my friends who come and hang out with me. I really appreciate this. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have you guys on the show and just talk about this stuff. It's fascinating. It's one of the most fun things I do. But we're going to shut it down for tonight. Thanks for being here. And for tonight, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.